Good morning, IB Biology 12. This is Mr. McGee, and I'm just going to go through a tutorial if you want to make your semester 1 project on a computer. So let's just say that you're looking at your lab sheet and you've got this kind of data. How do you convert this into an Excel file and turn this into a graph? Well, since you want to do this for your IA, it's probably a good idea that you guys attempt to try it to some extent, although I'm not going to require you to do it for this assignment specifically. So if you take a look at this, I've got my data in there, and obviously you're going to want to somehow get this onto Microsoft Excel, so I'll show you how to do this. First thing we're going to want to do is notice that we're going to need 2 rows up here at the top. This one will end up merging later, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows across, and then 6 columns across, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns down. And so in this lab here, I'm going to go ahead and take this here, and these I'm going to title my independent variable, and this one over here I'm going to title my dependent variable. And I know I'm going to go over to the sides. And then of course we go T1, T2, T3 and mean. So let's do that real quickly here. T1, T2, T3, mean, and standard deviation. And then of course down here I can start saying IV1. Obviously you'll put in your own titles for this, but since you're using your different variations, we'll just call it it's hard for me to look at the screen here and talk with a cold like this. Alright, so now how do we create the little box around it? Well, this one here, we're going to highlight it, and then up at the top we have what's called merge and center, and then if we wrap the text, helps bring it there, and then these little buttons here allow us to move it in any direction we want to. In the middle, I like it kind of looking like this. The dependent variable, I like to be covered over these top rows, so I'm going to do this here, and I'm going to hit merge and center, and that looks about good right there. All of these boxes, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this little box here on font, and by the way, this is Microsoft Excel 2016 that I'm using. You'll find 2013 and later should be similar. And you'll notice these are different borders. For this one, I'm going to click all borders. You can specifically click on any cell if you want to and add or remove a border, but that's pretty much it. And personally, I want these ones centered because they look nicer when they're centered. These ones, you can center them if you want to. It's up to you. And likewise, it's nice to have your data centered, but I'll let you just use your discretion at that. I like to have the titles here a different color, so I'm going to highlight those and come up here to color. I'm going to add a little background color there like this. And you can even come down here and do it to these too. So it's up to you if you want to do that. If you backspace, it just deletes it. But I like to see where my independent, dependent variables and all that are at. Okay. Also, make sure you have your dependent variables a title with a unit, and you have your unit and title. On this one, I'm just using IV as my generic title. And let's say you got this for your data down there. I'm going to go ahead and copy it, and I'm going to go ahead and paste my data in these categories. Hopefully, you were able to get 3 trials, but you might not have been. And what do you do if it ends up doing a super bold like that? Well, I'm going to come down here to, should be a border option here. Sorry, it's kind of hard for me to take a moment and figure this out on the spot when I get caught off guard. I don't want to waste time making the video. Give me just a second. Okay, hopefully we got the video rolling here again, so I'm not sure if that paused or not, but what I ended up doing was I highlighted this, I went back up here to make it no border, and then I went back here and made it a border again, and it gave me my normal font. There is a way to do that, but I'm just not going to worry about it right now. So there I've got my data. Well, how do I calculate my mean? Well, Excel has a nice little tool where you just highlight everything and then go 1 column over like this. And if you come over here to auto sum and click average, it'll give you your average. Now for standard deviation, we want to click in one little box over there, come up here to f of x, and for standard deviation, you just look under all, and you can look under here for stdev for standard deviation right there. stdev, don't worry about these other ones here. And to calculate my standard deviation for the first row, we don't need to worry about the number 2, just the first one is important here. I'm going to highlight these 3 data sets, and there we go. Now you can do this for each little data set here where you go down, and it has most frequently used, so once you do that, it's nice. You select stdev, and then you just do this for each row like this. So I've got my standard deviation. But what's nice is once you calculate it, you can copy a cell and then just paste it individually in each one of those. So the equation will copy. So now we need to tidy this up a little bit more too, and that is with consistent decimal places. Now notice that in these ones, we're using 1 decimal place of rounding. This one here is 2.0. The computer did not know what to do there. So what I'm going to do is come over here to number and add a decimal point and remove it, so those are consistent. Now generally speaking, when you are doing your mean and standard deviation, you want to have 1 more decimal point than your raw data. So if these have 1 decimal point of precision, depending on how you're measuring your device, we're going to round this to 2 decimal points of precision. And let's go ahead and not make these bold like they were initially. And there you go. There's your table. And that should work out just pristinely. So now how do we make a graph out of this? Well, the answer is we're going to not use our titles. We're just going to basically make this our independent variable, our x-axis. And then if I hold Control now and click here, this is going to be our y-axis, our dependent variable. We are not highlighting anything else, just our x and our y-axis. And then you come up here to scatter plot, and there's your graph. Now from here on, it's just a matter of kind of tweaking the variables and seeing what we want. And first of all, I don't want to start all the way over here at, I don't want to start over here, you know, with a big gap. So you can double click on this down here. And in this case, I'm going to start at 1. And it should be 0 because this is a control group, but because I titled it IV1, it's starting at 1 right there. But let's say we want to end this at 4 as well. And you just click on it like there, and you can see it skipping. I can also tell, whoops, if I also click on the bottom row and just double click it, I can also tell the computer that I want to skip by units of 1 and not by units of half. And so that looks nicer. You can do the same thing over here to kind of clean that up and even adjust decimal points. As far as adding a title, when you click on the graph, there's a little plus sign to the side, and you click on it over there, and you can add your axis titles down here like this. So if I double click on this here now, I'm going to Control and A, that's going to highlight it, and then I'm going to name this whatever title I want. Please do not do what I'm doing here. And then of course put your unit in there. And so if you're measuring this in centimeters, you'd put cm. Now ideally if you're measuring this with precision, notice we're measuring this with 0.0 or 0.1 decimal points of precision. So I'm going to hold Alt 0177. That makes a cool little key there. And this is my units with uncertainties. It's saying we're measuring it with a precision of this. I'm going to double click on my axis title down here, and then what we're going to do is we are going to basically title this as well. I'm just going to put title down here. Same thing. Let's say we're measuring this in kilometers. I'm just going to make this up here. And again, what's our precision? 01 Alt key plus 0177 on Windows computers. On Macintosh, it's a little bit different. And let's just, I'm making up my precision here. Let's say you're really precisely able to measure that. And so this is really how you set up your units and uncertainties with your title. Give your chart a title as well, making sure it includes the independent and dependent variable. And it's also nice, honestly, if you click on this here and hit delete, click on this, hit delete. I don't use those lines for anything. You can also click on the little circles and adjust their size if you right click and change format data series. I'll let you guys play with that a little bit. And the big thing last is your standard deviation. How do you, for standard deviation, create error bars? Well, first we're going to go down here, and you got to follow this exactly. Do not click on this line. Click on the arrow instead off to the side and go to More Options. Once you do that, ignore everything. Don't click on anything. Come down here to Custom. I've never understood why they do it this way. So once you go down there to Custom, you're going to, for positive error, we're going to do this the same both times. Click on the positive error icon, highlight standard deviation. Click on negative, highlight the standard deviation once again. Do not do anything different than what I showed you. It is highly sensitive. You may get these horizontal error bars with tiny little vertical ones. I don't know why it does this, and I contacted Microsoft once, and they didn't have a good explanation. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just click on the horizontal lines and then hit delete. And that will leave you with, if you can see, nice little error bars like that. Just for fun, let's see what happens if I make one of these really high. Let's say this data point is much different than the others. Let's say I make this 8.6, a really unique measurement. And let's say this one here is 3.6. So you can see we've got quite a bit of variance, and it's dramatically going to shift our standard deviation here. And this is going to show a high degree of variability. Let's make this 7.2, just to show you what happens when you have such variation in your data. And there you go. Now how do I add a trend line? I come over here, and I'm going to click on my trend line, but don't click on that line. Just ignore it. Click on the little side line here, and come again to Options. Figure out, what does it look like. Does it look like a linear? Does it look polynomial? What is the order? You're trying to get it to fit as best as you can. And also I would recommend you display the equation as well as an r squared. And if you click on this here, you can move this to a better location. Now you will want to probably play with the font by highlighting that and then expanding it or shrinking it to make it fit. You know, obviously it all depends on how you copy and paste this. So hopefully that all helps everybody, and good luck with this.